Yeehaw, I got snake eyes.
Today we're building Spyro and Sparks from the Spyro the Dragon series, specifically the original Reignited trilogy. A small purple dragon and his trusty dragonfly, whose victories include beating a cowardly orc champion, a rageful kobold sorcerer, and a malicious lizard folk sorceress. I guess it pays to breathe fire and move fast. Speaking of which, our goals for this build are pretty straightforward. We need to breathe fire, we need to be able to have a trusty sidekick, great mobility options, particularly flying, and we need to be able to headbutt people in submission. For our ancestry, we need to be a tiny dragon, and tiny kobolds are great if you want to be a reptilian beast who breathes fire and eventually flies. You get 6 hit points at level 1, you're a size small, 25 base movement speed, ability boost in dexterity and charisma, you're a popular gaming mascot after all, and you have great mobility. And for our free ones, put in the strength, but ability flaws we get constitution, needing it to an 8, which is fine, you die in 3 hits anyway, you only get 4 if you beat a series of challenges in the post game. That doesn't really count. For languages, you get Common and Draconic. You can also get languages equal to our intelligence modifier, but we aren't improving it, so that isn't a big deal. We also get Dark Vision. You can see in darkness and dim light as well as you can in bright light. And you see darkness in black and white, which is great because I think Spyro does a lot of dungeon crawling. Literally, like he goes in dungeons. As a kobold, you also pick a Draconic exemplar, kind of like the dragon you mimic in your own personal heritage. And the dragon we're mimicking is a red dragon, which gives us a cone of fire damage, which is perfectly in character for Spyro. Red and purple are pretty close to each other on the color scale, which is fine. For our ancestry feat, we're going to pick Kobold Breath. Every round you can manifest a breath that's either a 30-foot line or a 15-foot cone, dealing 1d4 damage, and every 2 levels after the third, you can increase that damage by 1d4. So at the end of it, you'll be doing a pretty decent amount of damage with a simple little breath attack. For background, Nomad is pretty good for someone who jumps from world to world all the time like you do. Choose 2 ability boosts. 1 must go into Constitution and Wisdom. I would pick Wisdom, and 1 free ability boost put into Strength. You're trained in Survival skill and a lore skill related to one terrain you travel in, such as Desert lore or Swamp lore. I would pick Forest personally. You also get Assurance skill feat with the Survival skill. And now we get to pick our class, and the class we're going to pick is Monk for Spyro. You're trained in Perception. For your saving throws, you're expert in Fortitude, Reflex, and Will. For skills, you're trained in a number of skills equal to 4 plus your intelligence modifier, so just 4. Pick Athletics, Acrobatics, Diplomacy, and Arcana. For attacks, you're trained in simple weapons and unarmored attacks. For defenses, you're untrained in all armor, but you're an expert in unarmored defense, which is cool because you don't wear pants. And for our class DC, you're trained in the Monk class DC. And for our first level ability boost, you're going to put them in Dexterity, Wisdom, Strength, and Charisma. We're focusing on our strengths, like our actual strength, Dexterity, Wisdom, and Charisma. These are all things that Spyro really hones in. He lacks a formal education since he's out saving the world, and again, he dies in 3 hits, so we won't be boosting Constitution. At the first level, we get Flurry of Blows. Make 2 unarmed weapon attacks. If they both hit the same creature, combine their damage for the purposes of resistances and weaknesses. For a monk feat, get Dragon Tail, because you could use your claws, however, this does more damage, and I like to flavor it using your head for an upcoming feat. You also get Powerful Fist. It adds lethal to unarmed weapon attacks, and you deal 1d6 damage when not in a stance. However, you should always be in Dragon Tail stance. Just trust me. For our second level monk feat, get Key Rush. You get the Key Rush key spell and a focus pool of 1 focus point. So for 1 action, you can move 2 times, 2 strides, 2 steps, or 1 stride and 1 step. You get the concealed condition and during this movement and until the start of your next turn, giving you an extra boost in speed. For our skill feat, get Catfall. To treat distances as though we're 10 feet shorter, it's great for a platformer like Spyro. At the third level, we get a general feat. Let's get the Tub feat to increase our health by our level. We're going to need it since we aren't boosting Constitution. Incredible Movement means we can add 10 feet to our base land speed, which is pretty great. Mystic Strikes, your unarmed attacks become magical for the purposes of overcoming resistances and non-magical attacks. And skill increases get Athletics up to Expert. For our 4th level Monkey, get Flying Kick. You make a leap or attempt a high jump or a long jump, and at the end of that jump, if you're adjacent to a foe, you can immediately strike that foe with an armed attack, even if that foe is in midair. You fall to the ground after the strike, but hey, you got that charging headbutt now. And for our skill feat, get Underwater Marauder. You're no longer flat-footed when underwater. And you don't take any penalties to using bludgeoning or slashing weapons while in the water as well. At the 5th level, we get Ability Boost. Put them in the Strength, Wisdom, Dexterity, and Charisma. Alertness. Our rank in Perception increases up to Expert. For our ancestry feat, get Winglets. You can leap horizontally, you move an additional 5 feet, but this doesn't work with the increased leap distance from Powerful Leap. You don't automatically fail your checks to high jump or long jump if you don't stride at least 10 feet before. And when you attempt a long jump, you can jump distance up to 10 feet higher than you normally would based on your athletics check. Although you can't jump further than your speed, which is fine right now because you have little wings. You also get expert strikes, your ranks in unarmed attacks and simple weapons increase up to expert, and skill increases get acrobatics up to expert as well. At the 6th level, get a monk feat, get guarded movement. You get an additional 4 bonus to your AC against reactions triggered by your movement, which is really good when you're running around trying to collect things or attack enemies. For a skill feat, get quick jump to jump in 1 action instead of 2. At the 7th level, you get a general feat, get die hard to die in a condition of 5 instead of 4. Incredible movement gets boosted up to 15 instead of 10. And path perfection, choose one of the saving throws. Your proficiency rank in that chosen saving throw increases up to master, and when you roll a success on that chosen saving throw, it's critical success instead. Personally, I would pick reflex. I feel like jumping and dodging area effects is more in character for Spyro. For a skill increase, get athletics up to master, and weapon specialization, you deal 2 additional damage with weapons and armor attacks, in which you're an expert in, up to 3 if you're a master. For our 8th level monk feat, I suggest getting sparks, so let's get familiar master, and you get a small familiar as a result of getting this feat. Get the bat, since it's the smallest flyer we can get. You have to get the flyer feat, and you can pick either fast movement, type of fast moving sparks, or speech if you want them to sound like David Spade or Wayne Brady. For a skill feat, get quick swim, and you can swim 5 feet further on a success and 10 feet on a critical success, up to your maximum speed. And when you're in legendary and athletics, you can get a swim speed equal to your normal speed, which is going to get pretty great by the end of this build. At the 9th level, you get an answers feat, get Dragon's Breath. When you use Cold Breath, you can increase the damage up to D8s and increase the area to 60 feet in a line or 30 feet in a cone. If you do, you can't use Cold Breath for another hour though. Metal strikes, your unarmed attacks are treated as cold, iron, and silver for the purpose of overcoming resistances and immunities. Monk expertise, your rank in monk DC increases to expert, and if you have key spells, which we do, your proficiency rank in spell attacks and spell DCs with the tradition you use is increased up to expert. For our skill increases, get acrobatics up to master. At the 10th level, you get ability boost from the strength, wisdom, dexterity, and charisma. For our monk feat, get knockback strike, make an unarmed attack. When you hit, you can make an athletics check against the target to shove them. The attack uses the same multi-attack penalty as your strike, but it doesn't count towards your multiple attack penalty. For our skill feat at this level, get aerobatics mastery. You get a +2 circumstance bonus to acrobatics checks to maneuver in flight, and can combine 2 movements in a single action, such as reversing direction while making a steep ascent, or descending or hovering in gale force winds, which is really good when you need to go through rings and destroy lighthouses and kill doves. For a general feat, get Incredible Initiative at the 11th level to get a +2 to your initiative rolls. Incredible Moon gets beefed up to +20 instead of +15. In the second path to perfection, choose a different saving throw than the first one you picked. Same deal, increases up to master, roll critical success when you roll a success. I would personally pick Fortitude, and for our skill increase, let's increase survival up to expert. At the 12th level, you get a monk feat, get improved knockback. When you successfully shove a creature, you can increase the distance you push the creature and the distance you can move to follow along the target by 5 feet on success and 10 feet on critical success. If you push the target into an obstacle, it takes bludgeoning damage equal to 6 plus your strength modifier, or 8 plus your strength if you have a legendary in athletics. For our skill feat, get steady balance. When you roll a success on a balance action, you get a critical success instead. You're not flat-footed when attempting a balance check on narrow surfaces or uneven ground. Very useful for a platformer, much like jumping. At the 13th level, you get Ancestry feat, so let's get Hatchling Flight. You fly half your speed. If you don't end your movement on solid ground, you end up falling at the end of your turn, which works out for that little glide you do. Graceful Mastery, your rank in armor defense increases up to master, and Master Strikes, your rank in unarmed weapon attacks and simple weapons increase up to master. For our skill increases, get survival up to master. At the 14th level, you get Tongue in the Sun and Moon, and you can speak and understand all spoken languages. Spyro visits countless worlds, understands every single person in them. I call that a perfect application of Sun and Moon. And for a skill feat, get Terrain Expertise. You get a +1 bonus to survival checks. I'm partial to Force, but Tundra will work as well. At the 15th level, you get Ability Boost, put in the Strength, Wisdom, Dexterity, and Charisma. For our general feat, you get Feather Step. You can step in difficult terrain. For our Greater Weapon Specialization, our Weapon Specialization damage increases from 4 with weapons and armored attacks we're expert in, and 6 if we're a master in them. Incredible Movement, get 25 feet to our movement instead of 20. Skill increases, get Athletics up to Legendary. For our third Path of Perfection, you can choose a saving throw we selected for a previous Path of Perfection. The rank increases up to Legendary. When you roll a critical failure on the typical save, it's a failure instead. And when you fail on the critical save that would deal with damage, you instead take half instead. This is great for all those jumping around and barrel rolls that Spyro can do. At the 16th level, get a Monk feat, get Flinging Blow. You make an unarmed attack. If you hit, the target must succeed a Fortitude save against your class DC if you pushed 10 feet directly away from you, or 20 on a critical failure and fall prone. If another creature or physical object prevent this movement, both the target and the blocking object or creature takes 1d6 of bludgeoning damage per 5 feet of movement prevented. And for a skill feat, get Wall Jump. If you're adjacent to a wall at the end of a jump, you don't fall as long as you use your next action to jump from wall to wall to wall to get up to higher places, which is great, again, in a platformer. At the 17th level, you get Adamantine Strikes. Your unarmored attacks are treated as adamantine, so your claws can dig through that thick hide. For answer, if you get Warming Flight, you gain a flight speed equal to your land speed using your wings to stay aloft, which is great because now we can do those flying levels. Graceful Legend. Your armored defense increases the legendary and proficiency rank in your class. DC increases the master. If you have key spells, they increase the master as well. And for a skill increase, get acrobatics up to legendary to not take any fall damage. At the 18th level, you gain a Monk Feat. I suggest getting Diamond Fists. Your unarmed attacks gain a Forceful trait. If it already has it, instead increases the weapon damage by 1, but you don't have to worry about that. Forceful is when you attack with it more than once in a turn. The second attack gains a bonus to damage equal to the number of weapon damage die. Then every attack after that gains a bonus of double that. So on a full combo, it'll be 1, 2, 2, 2. I'll explain more about how that's great in the positive section. For skill feat, get Planar Survival. You can assist using survival in different planes, even those without resources or food you normally would need. For instance, you can forage for food even in a plane that lacks food that can normally sustain you, which is good for some of these worlds where it's a lot of molten lava and general ice. At the 19th level, you get a general feat. I suggest getting Breath Control. You can hold your breath for 25 times longer than you normally would before suffocating. You also get a +1 bonus to saving throws against inhaled threats, such as inhaled poisons. When you roll success on such saving throw, you get a success instead. We got our last incredible movement boost up to +30 instead of 25, and perfected form. On your first strike of your turn, if you roll lower than 10, you treat that attack roll as a 10, but this is a fortune effect. This is really good when you really want to get that first hit on combat. And for our skill increase, we'll get survival up to legendary. At the 20th level, we get our last 4 ability boosts: Strength, Wisdom, Dexterity, Charisma, to get them up as high as we can. For our Monk Feat, get Enduring Quickness to permanently quicken. You can use the extra action to stride or leap, or if one of the actions needed for a high jump or a long jump. For a skill feat, get Legendary Survivalist. You can survive indefinitely without food or water and can endure severe, extreme, and extremely cold and heat without taking damage from doing so, which is good for all these worlds that Spyro visits. But with all that being said, do you want to be the purple dragon? You have great saves with high points in all of them except for will saves. And with damage, you get to deal 4d10 plus 24 plus 24 plus 7 with force for a strike combo that does 59 on a low and 97 on a high. This is dealing consistent damage. You also get to mess with any positions with knockbacks and many different kinds of shoves and the like. You're also insanely mobile with 60 movement speed, great jumping, and the added plus that you can straight up fly. On a turn that's all stride, you can move up to 124 feet in a single round, or 48 squares if you're going by 5s. At the end of the day, you might be what stands between the orcs, the Rhinox, and Sorcerers of the world. So grab Sparks, hop through a portal, give it a little hot foot, and be back in Dragon Shores by lunchtime. Just be careful, or you might end up in the Year of the Dragonfly, and not the Year of the Dragon. 15 years later, and I'm still bitter. God, what an awful game.